There is no forgiveness in the jungle,
only survival. The Kalobcuran clan's mantra roared in Blight's head. He tried to forget the bungled arrow he'd aimed at the doe. His maladroit hands lost the deft touch for archery. The brutal labor of smithy had hardened his hands and arms. Blight refused to reflect on the Umbra-Elf's icicle stares of disappointment. They hailed into his back. There was no time to recall the howls of laughter that filled the jungle from his cousin, Ulul-Alpha. Ulul-Alpha was adorned with his bow and quiver. He shouldered past Blight, smirking. Baring his lithe forearms, he created a wolf shadow puppet. It peeled itself from the foliage. The shadow evolved into a canine quartet, uncovered from the coarse underbrush. The jet wolves snapped their jaws. Disappearing into the chaparral, they hounded the retreating doe. Their master followed suit, readying his bow to take down the creature. Chiefess Venom's blank countenance slithered past. It neglected Blight with her gaze. Seconds stretched into eternities as she and her twilight boa left Blight alone, as the clan abandoned him to the foliage. Just as his mother hissed,
"There's no forgiveness in the jungle, only survival."
His mind focused on rectifying the hunt. Blight peered into his shadow and reflection. This was his final moon before adulthood. There would be no more chances. A Kalobcuran warrior has no option for failure.
I have no option for failure.
Stealing his mind, Blight sank into the umbral sea. His Tiltakamu was distinct among his kin. Unlike their shadow beast summons, he possessed the endless Umtalk, or puddle. While derisively named by his cousin, his spirit weightlessly stored the Kalobcuran's weapons. Purely visualizing the weapons, he'd submerge his arms into his silhouette, retrieving them. Even as the ability chilled him to his bones, he served his people, fetching their bows, arrows, hatchets, or even in Chiefess Venom's ornamental spear, if she'd ever let him touch it. The dark maw of his shade greedily consumed his body. The void broke under his weight, suspending him in darkness. As he sank, Blight tracked the Umbra-Elves. Their shades offered body-sized panes of light into his dark realm. With self-effacing wretchedness, Blight willed himself through the dark sea. His hands would grip the blades and arrows from his people, using them as a lattice to escape. Each weapon closed the distance to the doe. The blades and arrowheads pierced his hands with the frozen intensity of his people's stares. His arms furiously pumped. Blight resolved himself through the pain. In the world above, Blight's elusive doe was within grasp. Breaching the surface, he escaped the beast's profile. Suddenly, she cut sideways into the underbrush, the shadow thrown into a nearby tree. Cousin Ulul-Alpha directing the hunted party after her. Blight hurled towards Ulul-Alpha. The two young men collapsed into a pile. The fleshy distraction provided ample time for the doe to retreat. Chiefess Venom slinked towards the familial sprawl, constricting Blight in her Tiltakamu twilight bow. The serpentine eyes ferociously set upon the boy. He felt the cold of the black scales. They contorted over his flesh until Blight soullessly collapsed. Blight's head buckled, swimming with insecurities. Her venomous words poisoned every thought in his head. All that was left was the mantra.
"There's no forgiveness in the jungle, only survival."
She loomed over Blight. He slipped out of consciousness as his lungs were expunged with oxygen. A rough hand cradled Blight's head as he awoke. Cayde, his mentor, greeted him with worn eyes, a beaming smile, and soothing caresses. After an amputation in their youth, Cayde never returned to the life of a Kalobcuran warrior. They adapted their use of Aegis Turtle, from simple shield to mobile forge for the Kalobcuran clan. Yet, the heat-resistant shawl provided ample protection as they forged the most valuable material. The Kalobcuran children, their large frame, cushioned by the shawl and clothing, betrayed Cayde's kindness. Their warmth juxtaposed gently with the crude, cold steel hammer affixed to their left stump. He discovered that Blight's Tiltakamu possessed infinite storage, reinvigorating Blight's chances as Kalobcuran war archer. Cayde constantly advocated for Blight, seeing his unforged potential. Blight readied himself, kneading his now bandaged hands together. The crimson stains barely dyed the cloth. The nurturing gesture followed by paternal admonishment. "Hope you enjoyed your plunge into the gloomy sea." Cayde's voice gently cooed. "Chiefess would have had your head if your power weren't so valuable." But that's when Blight quickly ignored the lively banter. Anyone not named by their 100th cycle forgoes the honor of being a Tiltakamu shaman or Kalobcuran warrior. They live as a child does, foraging for vegetables, denied the honor of the hunt. Until death, they carried their birthday. The Kalobcuran never recorded a failure of that magnitude for centuries. Given his twin failures, that future pressed upon him only one night away. I can name you when the time comes, Cayde confessed, reading their apprentice's depressive state. You got the skills to be the next Kalobcuran blacksmith. Us two, mentor and successor, working together. Love in the words broke the young man. Something in Master Cayde's acknowledgement felt hollow.
They were the reason I had the opportunity in the first place. Now, I would not get to be a Tiltakamu shaman. I would never feel honored as a Kalobcuran warrior. I would never get.
Blight's voice cracked in response.
No matter how much I admire you, the chiefess was right. There is no forgiveness in the jungle, only survival. My Tiltakamu has brought me only failure. Your aegis turtle was indestructible.
And now it serves as your anvil. Talk proves I was born worse. I deserved my name. I deserved being. The despair swallowed Blight, sinking into the gloom. Cayde's hand darted to the bed frame. The bed, a construct of their Tiltakamu, disappeared, giving Blight the necessary shock to regain his composure, thudding onto the hard floor. You're right, kid. My new job doesn't require Aegis Turtle as a shield. I can use it as an anvil, or a bed. The blacksmith mused. I ain't Cayde the Unbreakable no more. I'm Cayde, the blacksmith. I own my name. I tend to the kiddies, 'cause like steel, y'all are as dull as iron ore. However, only with blood and time can y'all grow into being the new fangs of the Kalobcuran. Blight somberly peeled himself from the floor. Cayde's calloused hands outstretched towards him. The smithy's tender warmth became a sweltering heat. The looming door frame called to Blight. Shoving past the blacksmith, Blight sprinted deep into the noon of the jungle. The quiet din of the viridian veldt gently soothed his mind. He wordlessly stalked the forest floor, wafting with the acrid stench of sulfur. Blight ignored it. The forest fire brings rejuvenation to the thicket. Conflagration brings life, after all. Blight slowed, discovering a small clearing, which he rested. The faunus cacophony embraced his exhaustion, overwhelmed with the events of the day. He collapsed on the jungle floor, resting. Bugle's horn pierced the air, violating Blight's halcyon rest. Groggily he rolled awake, turning towards his home. Where once was Kalobcuran village was now a distant blaze. The bugle's screeches taunted Blight. He jolted awake, blindly sprinting. Blight was bludgeoned with the foul odor of burned flesh. He floundered over mounds of torched bodies thrown askew. Tracing their smoldering corpses, Blight mourned the dead Tiltakamu shaman. Blight scrutinized his bandaged hands. The Kalobcuran warriors never demanded to retrieve their weapons after his failure.
My people are defenseless.
Breathlessly, Blight ran to the village entrance. The shrouded figure, gilded in jewelry, stood in the small plaza. The gold bangles and soft flowing cloth were unfit for an excursion into the jungle. A portly attendant, holding a golden horn, stood at attention behind him. The remaining contingent of Tiltakamu shaman summoned their shadow beasts to defend against the intruder. A dark menagerie descended upon them. The bundle of clothes already before the wave of shadow beasts.
Cheers, Kalobcuran! My code says wrangling animals isn't a prince's duty. Yet staying in a palace where there's an adventure to be had is as dull as dishwater, isn't it?
The interloper's onyx skin cracked with magma veins. His arms disintegrated in silken robes. His fists thundered upon the earth as the lava seeped into the ground. A moment of silence passed. Another. Then a colossal fissure concussed the creature. Their anguished cries filled the night. They were silenced by the deaths of their shamans. Shadow elves' bodies torn asunder and burned to death with the second explosion.
That makes 15. None gave me a right challenge. Go on, Gideon. Go your home.
A portly attendant blew his bugle in triumph at his prince's domination. The 15 fanfares for the unprepared corpses at the prince's feet, only in death, bowing before him. Blight sunk defeated. After all,
There's no forgiveness in the jungle. Only survival.
Death summoned the Kalobcuran's greatest war archer. Slinking from the tree line, Umbra-Elf shadow animated, warping around the tree line due to the flickering of the flames. Birthing his wolves, their jowls snapped in bloodthirst. A symphony of howls answered the explosion in horn. Pouncing into the fray, 2 wolves dove upon the invader. Another pair flanked their shaman. The Cayde champions warned of future assault.
Oh, you look like fun. Sure beats faffing around with these blokes. After all, son Prince Malcor only wants a proper fight. Best give it.
The Magma Prince huffed. As Malcor extended the reach of his magma, the cracks in the earth threaded throughout the plaza. The jet wolves barked warnings, evading the attacks. Slinking around the tree line, Umbra-Elf used the opportunity presented. He readied his bow. The arrow sailed as masterful hands guided its direction. The prince yelped, pitching backwards, his obsidian chest broken by the steel arrowhead. The fracture heaved, oozing with lava as his hands gripped upon his chest. Gideon attempted to invigorate his prince, pleading with him to rise. The wolf duet began a savage dance on his downed form. Their black teeth chipped at the elegantly polished skin. As the obsidian flesh gave, the caustic flow upwelled from his wounds. The jet wolves attacking him were devoured. They melted beneath his lava blood, their pained whelps silenced as smoke emanated from them. Malcor's red eye scanned the darkness for his assailant. The jubilant prince was no more, supplanted with a sadistic predator. Lava flowing down his chest, Malcor collected stones, holding them gingerly in his hands. Heating them with his lava blood, Malcor's voice superciliously oozed.
I am the ace fire mage in my family. The greatest fire mage of her generation died with my birth. Shadow elves cower at night, clinging to beasts to save them. You lot have naff taste towards power. You don't deserve it.
Pelting stones towards the tree line, Prince Malcor snapped his fingers. The stones violently exploded, causing bolts of light and shrapnel to fly omnidirectionally. The smoke and light tore at Umbra-Elf's eyes and strangled his throat. The gasps and screams in pain alerted the Sun Prince to his prey's location. Malcor walked down to the blinded Umbra-Elf. Malcor's hands leaped with more lava, glowing red as dusk. It thundered onto Umbra-Elf's face. A caterwail ripped through the night sky, as the stench of burning flesh filled Blight's nose.
The people of Kalobcuran were said to be great warriors. They were said to wield the very darkness as a weapon. However, no shadow can stand amidst the sun. Rising
victoriously, Malcor noted his attendant had been mauled to death by the jet wolves before their dissolution. Malcor's hands flexed with red-hot magma. His feet crackled the earth with fissures. He opened his mouth to roar. Then, nothing. A massive, dark figure flanked his side, slamming Prince Malcor into a tree with its mighty size.
You should have died with her, boy,
Chiefess Venom hissed.
Your head will make more than enough warning for fools who challenge our fangs.
She signed for her twilight boa, and as her shadow animated, it coiled and writhed with life. Its head launched toward the errant prince and bombarded Malcor with strikes. The two were united in its absolute destruction. The chiefess deftly bounded to the tree where Malcor was stupefied. She slashed a gash across Malcor's face. Her ornamental spear glowed hot in the face of his infernal blood. In mastery of Detekktiv sorcery, she cast shadows onto the wood of her weapon with her arms. Resummoning Twilight Boa, she traced its path along them. It sank its fangs deep into Malcor, expanding its body to full tree trunk size on her command. Twilight Boa encompassed his torso, smothering the young man. His igneous flesh cracked. The harsh discord of snapping pottery snaked through the air. Malcor's torso glowed the Charisse charges of his molten heart. The Sun Prince's steaming blood shone in the night with a foreboding dawn. Cackling bestially, Malcor detonated his shattered chest outward with a massive explosion. Twilight Boa disintegrated until Detekktiv was unable to maintain its form in the harshness of Blight. The concussive shock of the explosion catapulted Venom backwards. She collided into a scorched tree with a meaty smack. No longer restrained, Malcor plummeted to the floor, heaving in pain. He rambled to the defeated Venom. She seethed, struggling to stand with her spear. The Sun Prince swept the woman's legs. Venom spat at him. Prince Malcor only smirked. as he mashed her face into the ashen ground, wiping spit from his chest.
You daft cow.
He exhorted.
Nary have I been in a fight that proper threatened me. But no need to throw wobbly. You were magnificent. For that, you get to live, as a token of how wonderful a king I am.
Panicked by the carnage, the Kalobcuran fled. The Umbra-Elves abandoned their homes in horror. The terror drew Malcor. His crimson eyes darted across the smoldering village for the pitiful noises. Explosions and flames swallowed the yurts as families inside perished. The deathly odor made Blight retch. He deposited a pool of bile upon the floor. The hopelessness ripped tears and screams from Blight.
There's no forgiveness in the jungle, only survival.
Locking eyes with Blight, Malcor's sinister smile flickered in the flames of the Kalobcuran. He dominantly sauntered towards Blight, an insignificant shadow amid the illuminated carnage. "Hey, pretty boy," a voice called out. "How about you stop gloating and get to scrapping?" Cayde, armed with a shield and blacksmith hammer, charged him. Blight watched in awe as Cayde used the tilted combo to shield the children as a mobile fortress. Despite being hopelessly outmanned, Cayde still fought. Malcor gripped their hammer hand, scalding the flesh. Magma dripped down their spine. Superheated stones bored into it, pressing through the torture. Cayde concentrated on Aegis Turtle's barrier. They would see their pieces of iron develop, and not under an oppressor's fist. The turtle marched to Blight and swallowed him, storing him with the other children. They nestled in the dark recesses of Aegis Turtle's stomach. Fire failed to melt the shell as magma slid down the unbreakable carapace. The shatterstones did not pierce the Umbra, the one who was the Forge.
Blight, listen, it's your turn now. It's in the furnace. Your tilts are combo eats any blade. No matter how hot, you carry all that pain on your back. No other Kalobcuran has to. After all, you're my...
The heat overwhelmed Cayde. The blacksmith collapsed to the floor. Yet, their Aegis turtle remained impregnable. The dark creature served as a tinted pain of suffering. Blight and the Sun Prince looked towards the other in contempt and hatred. Blight's mind inflamed, motivated by the torrents of emotion filling it. He clutched his face in hatred. Blight accepted Umtok's frigid embrace, sinking into the floor. He descended through the icy expanse, as though the darkness urged him towards this nemesis.
There is no forgiveness for the one who murders my people. There will be no survival for him that threatens the jungle.
Blight manifested in the Sun Prince's shadow, and he buried his carving knife deep into the Sun Prince's thigh. Malcor's tormented shout followed a targeted explosion towards Blight. It was moments too late. Blight blinked into the darkness of the underbrush. The pulty explosions could not protect him against the quicksilver of vindication. Blight imagined another weapon. Umtok offered Ululalfa's hatchet. Blight served the axe into Malcor's back, drawing upon more weapons. His dead clansmen avenged themselves through his slashes. Their weapons exposed the arrogant prince. The numerous arrows bit Malcor's exhausted body, honoring the promise of the Kalobcuran's fangs. His form struggled to stand the punishment.
Where are you? You godless chav.
Half submerged, Blight gripped the prince with all his might. The forged muscles exceeded the cushier ones on the pampered prince. The molten flesh gushed a volcanic flow. The heat scalded Blight's arms. Blight could feel no burns. The bone chill of his shadow slaked the infernal heat. Blight dragged Malcor into the abyss with him. The screams hushed as Blight delivered the prince to the depths. The red light of his magma slowly lost its luster. The magma-hot blood offered no salvation, hardening as it pooled out of Malcor's body. Blight watched the body sink, as dim red blood snuffed into the deep black. Blight ejected his jet sea. He emerged from Cayde's shade. They gave their mentee a pained beam of joy. However, as the light in their eyes faded away, Cayde brushed their student's hair. The last whispers on their lips were the sweet release that he'd always longed to hear. Even in death, Cayde cared for him. On the subsequent night, Mother Venomman hasted the naming ceremony. She exclaimed her pride. She gently nursed the burns on her son's arms. her serpentine eyes smiling.
Blight, my son, honors his forefathers. He has far exceeded the test of a Tiltakamu warrior. I would be remiss not to honor him with a name. He is our dark heart.
Embracing his anguish, he yanked his arms away. Turning his back to her, he faced the Umbra-Elf, witnessing his rebirth.
Chiefess Venoman, that's not my name.
He regaled their surviving Kalobcuran he'd already earned his name.
I will tend the furnace. My Tiltakalmu devours any foe. I carry all the pain of all Kalobcuran, so theirs has pristine form in their archery.
The moon bathed him in its serene glow. Echoing his late mentor, he declared how he defeated the sun itself.
I am Sun Eater!
I hope you enjoyed the story of Sun Eater. This was a very difficult translation to source, as I needed to find the tome translated by Dr. Sefu W. Saudade. He will likely be a reoccurring author in our series. You can find a copy of the story in the description. But the text was sufficient. We noticed how the reason that Blight / Sun Eater was able to expand his power was because he was able to truly tap into the depth of his negative emotion. He was able to truly appreciate the darkness that was inside of him. In the story, whenever he was trying to deny the parts of him which gave him his power, his voice would be drowned out by the mantra. However, when he made his own mantra, it was when he was truly able to become powerful. I believe that the message of this story was that we as people are always born with gifts. Those gifts may not align with what our parents believe in what we should have, or what we believe we should have, but our expansion of those gifts is what gives our lives meaning. By denying them, you cripple yourself. Only with a truly wise grasp of reality are you able to truly appreciate the gift that you possess. Now I ask you, what did you think this story was actually about? What do you think its theme was? And most importantly, how would you have stopped or even helped Malkor if you were in Blight's shoes? I'd like to close this video by discussing a comment left on last video. Dicklemode.mp4 noted, "Darkness can even take over us if we allow it to. Would that also be fear of the unknown? Can that also be considered darkness?" Well, I actually believe that the fight between Blight and Malkor is a representation. Because Malkor stopped believing in who he was, he allowed the darkness of the forest to overtake him. And you notice how the confidence that he once had died. The fear of the unknown is the most innate part of darkness, and it is that which the Umbrakinesis chooses to overcome, to become that much stronger, more expressive, and even more developmentally capable, as noted before. I'd like to thank my friends for voicing characters, and I would like to thank you for being my audience. I'm Dr. Detekktiv, and I hope that we continue to explore magic together.